Kirby Reanimated is a collaborative film where an episode of the series Kirby Right Back At Ya has been split up and handed to artists and animators around the world. They are then tasked with reanimating these scenes. This is my scene. Let's watch it again. Got that? My first step is to take the Cappies, the citizens of the Kirby universe, or at least the Kirby Right Back At Ya universe, and give them a far more interesting silhouette. If you look, you can see that all of the characters are positioned in a way that's not particularly interesting. So I have taken it upon myself to make them more cute and gooey. You gotta get that gooiness. So what I'm doing right now, you would call the layout step. I am not actually going to be animating any of these drawings. This is where I'm figuring out where things are going to be placed and make sure that everyone has enough space to read. Now there are 3 Cappies in the scene that have mustaches, and they all are pretty different looking mustaches to begin with. But I wanted to really skew and stretch them and make them really stand apart from each other. They all have this one defining trait about them. Everyone just knows you as the police officer. Did that dude even have any power? Do we ever see him arresting anyone or driving a police car? Or it's weird how, like, in the anime they had to give Kirby, like, 2 little humanoid friends. I guess Kirby doesn't really talk. You know, in that trailer for the new Smash Brothers game, the World of Light, there's like, they're all standing around, and then we start up on Fox McCloud, and he's pointing his gun up at all the master hands in the sky. And it's like, oh, I guess Fox is in charge. I guess he's the leader, not like Mario or Link or even Kirby. It's like, oh, I guess that's mostly just because Fox can talk and like Mario can't. Mario just says wahoo. It's not exactly leader material. So I'm finishing off the layout with the background here. See, I just marked off the 3 most important things: the window, the cupboard, and the television. From there, I am just, making my own, referencing the image to collaborate a little bit with the original artist. So now I'm taking those layout drawings I did and inserting them into my background. I clearly here, the background I drew wasn't big enough to fit all these extras. Animators hate scenes with loads of extras. When I worked in television animation, we would curse all of the storyboard artists whenever they would give us a crowd scene, because crowd scenes are just the worst. You have to sit there and give every single person in the crowd life. Very rarely you can get away with just putting them on a hold. The thing about Western animation, seems like it always kind of has to be moving, You ever watch an anime and you're like, man, Naruto's just standing there and it works. Like, why do we always have to be moving all the time when we're making our shows? If anything, Naruto should move more than, like, I don't know, Fairly Odd Parents. But it sure is pretty rare to see a Fairly Odd Parents shot that isn't animated, That doesn't have some sort of animation going on. Yeah, even like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Teen Titans, the Orig, or as I like to call it, the bad Teen Titans. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Teen Titans very much. Who am I to judge? I've got terrible tastes. I think Digimon is basically the best thing that ever happened. I have more emotional attachment to Digimon the movie than I do to 2001: A Space Odyssey. I have spent far more time thinking about Digimon the movie than I have the works of Stanley Kubrick. Oh, yeah, like, even they animate more than anime does. Like, You don't need to always be moving, guys. Chill out. It's not like I practice this lesson very much. I am very much a student of Western animation where I have to fight myself to keep it more simple. I always want to make things more complicated. When you're doing something, it feels like, you're working, you're doing a job, you're doing it the best way when you do as many drawings as possible in your animation. And it's like, no, economy, man. Less is more. And that applies to more than just animation. That's like every artistic thing I attempt, whether it's comics or podcasts, or doing too many things just makes it ugly and makes everything compete with each other. It's more about clarity and just letting things speak for themselves. So with Kirby here, I'm trying to make his teeth far more detailed than the rest of him, because detail is funny. That's just just kind of how it works. Detailed drawings tend to really either pull the eye or drive the eye away. There's a bit in Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics where he shows a technique of using simplified characters against a very detailed background, and it will bring your eyes directly to the characters. Now, of course, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm making a funny gag out of making the teeth all detailed. Just because you're doing a joke doesn't mean there's not some smartness behind it. But what's nice about digital animation is you can skew and stretch and reuse. So right here I am reusing parts of the drawing from previous frames. Animation really looks better if you hug your keyframes. So it's really nice animating in Harmony or Flash. You can skew and stretch, and your keyframe drawings can be reused as in-betweens, because you can just skew and draw from there. So here I want to keep the boy character without the eyes. That boy, I want to keep his hands in a similar place, so he's not. If I were to redraw his hands, there would be more of a chance of them standing out. Eyes are attracted to movement, so keeping the hands in the same place with just a tiny skew on them will not attract the eyes, but will still keep them alive. I guess they're just thinking that kids need to project themselves onto something, so they invented these two characters that, they're not from the games. They're not Meta Knight or King Dedede or even Waddle Dee. They're just what was with the main characters of anime children's programming in the early 2000s, starring rich kids? These two were royalty and are also Kirby's best friend. Man, Kirby should befriend some down on their luck people and help them have some good in their life. These kids, if Kirby wasn't there, they'd still be doing great. Also, why did they live with King Dedede? What was the whole setup there? I guess they're not royalty. Their dad is just a politician, but a politician that lives with the monarch in town. What was Dedede getting out of killing Kirby? Did he just not like him? It's not like Dedede's the most robust character. And he had that snail friend. Good old snail boy pal. I'm recording my screen and I'm afraid like that you're gonna spot some terrible secret I have. Somehow you're gonna look at all the apps I have in the corner and you're gonna realize, oh no, this guy's does all sorts of illegal things. I'm gonna tell the government about this guy. I'm assuming that all of you are narcs and you're gonna tell on me. Are you a narc? If you're a narc, report me to the government. Comment below that you're reporting me to the government, and then, do it. And when the police show up on my door, then I'll know. I'll know that you're a narc. Most of these laughs are going to have 2 or 3 keyframes, and then all of the in-betweens I want to keep really close. I want to just hug those curves, hug those corners. You're driving your race car and you want them to be right next to the wall, baby. Because, this scene is very cartoony. The drawings I did were super gooey. Gooey is what we decided they were. I drew so many drawings for the boy, for the kid, for the blue-haired boy. What are we going to call him? We'll call him Eggy. We did so many drawings for Eggy. And then here for Kirby, I'm just doing like 2, and then skewing and stretching between them. Doing a little follow-through. Follow-through is like, basically imagine you're moving a scarf, we'll say, moving a scarf back and forth with your hand. The part of the scarf at the end is going to follow the part of the scarf at the top where your hand is moving. And so follow through is a lot of that. Follow through is like kind of the polish step. It can be like really boring, tedious work, but it can really make your animation pop. So here's the girl. So we're calling the boy Eggy. What are we going to call the girl? We'll call her Salmon. I think I'm hungry. What am I going to eat for dinner today? I think I'm going to eat some eggs. Yeah. I don't have any eggs though. I have to go to the grocery store and get some eggs. So for Chef Kawasaki here, I'm trying to make it just 2 really simple keys that are just, what are we going to call when you skew and stretch a drawing? I guess kind of like you're remixing it, the first drawing. You're not drawing a whole new drawing. And I supplement that by doing a lot of drawings of his mouth. So his mouth is the thing that you're going to be paying attention to because it's moving the most. Hat boy here. Bumbo here. I just want him to be popping up and down. So have an up frame, up key, and a down key. And then his arms will follow through. So his arms are just going to be following his body. So his body is the thing that we are animating, and then the arms are just following it. And his face is going to pop open at, I believe I popped it open at his bottom. Yeah, at the bottom key. I'm popping open his mouth and just like sitting there for a minute. I use a lot of 4s and 2s and 3s. I don't think there's a whole lot of 1s. So what that means is film is 24 frames a second. and your drawings are going to last for a certain amount of time. So if it's on ones, that means that it is only lasting for one frame for those 24 frames. If it's on twos, it lasts 2 frames. Essentially, it's 12 frames a second if you animate the entire thing on twos. And then there's 3s and 4s, which isn't very common in Western animation. It's more of an anime thing, and other Eastern forms of animation. I like to use them because they, frankly, it's just like, it's easier because you don't have to do as many drawings, but I think it looks pretty good, and it's nice for simple cartoony animation because you don't have to do a drawing that's so similar, because essentially, you know, if you animate on ones, a lot of your drawings, if you're doing very snappy cartoony animation, the drawings are going to be very, very similar. Instead of, if you just had a 4, then your eye is going to see that frame for 4 frames and register, okay, so he is at a up position now, and then he'll be in a down position, and you'll really get to just like soak that info in, get that in your brain. And animation is the art form of tedium, whether you're reusing or remixing your drawings. If you're animating on 4s, 2s, it's all tedious, man. Some animators get like highfalutin, become like huge jerks about you want it to be all smoothly animated, and full animation is like Disney, we call full animation, Pixar's full animation, while like a Studio Ghibli is full animation. A limited animation is more of a TV budgeted show would be limited. So like Steven Universe uses a lot of limited animation. It's not necessarily easier to animate limited animation than it is to animate full animation. It's just kind of a different skill. It's like, think of, say, a episode of Sailor Moon will be very simple. There will be lots of shots that have no only one drawing, or only one drawing except for a lip flap. A lot of the animators on that show are being very, very smart, and their economy of drawings is a really useful skill that a lot of animators who have only worked in full animation don't know how to economize. They don't understand. They like, especially I find with students or young animators. Like I was definitely like this when I was starting out. It's like, you think that drawing more is better, but like, it's not really. It's like, just keep it simple, man. This is so hard to do without you drawing like every single dang thing. And like, full animation is great. There's some really incredible full animation out there. Like I enjoy a Pixar every now and then. I enjoy me some Gibbles, some Ghibli. I'm trying to destroy the name Ghibli. But yeah, like, mostly what I'm trying to say is just, you gotta learn to economize. You gotta learn to pick your battles. And I think in general, anime does a lot better job of picking its battles than like Western animation. Like I just finished watching Hilda, and then was watching what do you call it? What's that? Skullboy Adopts a Sex Slave, the anime. Yeah. You know that anime where the Skullboy adopts the sex slave? It's very popular. Skullboy Adopts a Sex Slave is arguably a lot more difficult of a premise to get across visually, and I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say Skullboy Adopts a Sex Slave does a great job of visually communicating their storyline, but like it is just interesting to have watched those shows back to back and just see how much Hilda is animating, how many more drawings. And now Hilda is a cutout animated show, so they're using puppets, but it's still just they use so many more drawings to communicate than Skullboy Adopts a Sex Slave does. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to diss Skullboy Adopts a Sex Slave. Like, I know it's very popular, and I imagine I would like it if I sat down and had a good time with it. It was pretty cool. Like, I get it. It was like, yeah, it was like Harry Potter, but like, they acknowledge that people are boning somewhere. I mean, people aren't boning because like, no one ever bones in anime. But like, you know, they're playing with the idea that someone has had sex at some point. So is the like mom here just wearing a nightcap like all the time? What is that? What kind of like era are they aping from to design these characters? There's like a man in a top hat and a bow tie and a mustache that's like clearly waxed, like he's sitting there in the morning and gets up and, you know, takes out his little jar of wax and he does it to show that he's a good mayor or whatever. Is he a mayor? I'm assuming he's a mayor. And then there's a cop who's like wearing an old-timey cop hat. I don't know what new timey cop hats look like. Maybe it is just a regular cop hat. I don't know, man. I don't hang out with cops. I love the Goku hair I gave this kid. Like he's just got a tuft of hair. A tuft of hair? Can you only say tuft of hair for hair? Like, can you have a tuft of anything else? I feel like I learned the saying tuft of hair from Neopets. Mostly for Neopets, what I did is I never really learned how to play Neopets, but they had a bunch of like how to draw Neopets things online, and I printed them all out, or at least all the cute ones, and like brought them to my daycare, and I would just sit there and draw Mario and Neopets all day. That's how I learned how to draw. So if you want to learn how to draw, just, you know, go to neopets.com from 2003, download all of the how to draw shoirus, print them out on your color inkjet printer. Ooh, was it color? I might have printed out in gray. Whoa. And yeah, just have a good time drawing some shoirus and some cheeps and all those guys. One thing I used to do when I was a kid was I had all sorts of those, like how to draw like Pokemon or The Simpsons or anime. Shouts out to the Christopher Hart books. I think it was Christopher Hart. I believe it was Christopher Hart who did all those like how to draw anime drawing books that were like so ugly. You know Boruto? You know that new Naruto show, Boruto? I haven't actually watched it, but like Boruto's goofy hair that he has reminds me so much of those old how to draw anime books. Did I finish my story about Neopets? Basically what I would do is I had all these how to draw books, and what I used to do was I would, because it would be like step 1, draw 3 circles. Step 2, connect the circles. Step 3, draw some eyes on the circles. And I would like open up Pikachu and Bart Simpson. You know, the 2 yellow boys. Everyone's, if you ask anyone on the street who their favorite yellow boy is, they would probably say either Bart or Pikachu. and I would follow, like, Pikachu would be like, draw 2 circles. So I'd draw 2 circles, and then I would go to step 2 for Bart, and Bart was like, draw 2 round eyes in the cylinder you drew. And so I would draw those circles onto Pikachu and create weird, like, sometimes it would kind of work. I drew like a bird that was pretty cool once. It's crazy how I remember this bird by doing this, by following these 2 steps. I think I put together like a Neopet and a Pokemon, and it made like a pretty cool bird that I probably drew a couple different times without following those steps. Just like, this was my new character, this bird that was half like Neopet, half Pokemon. I'm drawing these lines of action and trying to fit both of the characters into one line of action, and planned on animating these 2 characters together. They having a good old time, being best friends. You know, I just finished Breath of the Wild. I liked it. I didn't get the good ending. I haven't got all the memories yet, so I still have to do that. So maybe this will change when, like, I get the good ending. But, you know, Zelda's like, you saved me. Do you remember me? She's very British. Link, do you remember me? And, like, just kind of stares at her, like, dumb face, like he would, like, if he was, I don't know, at the DMV, the horse DMV. And, like, I don't know, I wanted, like, them to, like, high five at least. Like, like, you know, you don't have to have them kiss, or, like, I would rather them not kiss. I don't want to, like, they clearly are not romantic. They might have a crush on each other or whatever, but they're not, like, neither of them has acknowledged it within the context of the game. But, like, they did just defeat, like, a giant pig monster. Like, they could hug. Like, yeah, it's just, like, weird how no one touches each other in shows and games. I think that's what I'm getting at. It's like, have the boy, the hero boy, and the girl princess hug each other. Like, come on. So that's my review of Breath of the Wild. Good game, needs more hugs. Breath of the Wild, back of the box quote, no hugs a day. Now, I'm not one for saying construction is the die-all with which animation, the thing that animation lives or dies by, but it certainly helps to understand it. There are tons of fantastic artists who have never learned quote-unquote construction in the I understand that he is cancelled. But in John K's blog, he would talk about how construction is like the thing you need to learn to be a good artist. And like at one point I believed him. But man, there's just so many good artists out there that like clearly didn't learn construction in the way at least that John K teaches it. But yeah, so I'm trying to make these little blob boys round and have a certain, like, you can understand how they're shaped and how they would, you know, rotate in 3 dimensions, but also not stick too hard to it that I don't lose the flow to the drawings. See, I didn't like that boy. What did we call him? Eggy? We're gonna redraw Eggy here. My first go, I made Eggy far too complicated. I don't know exactly how many keyframes I did, but it was, more than 2. And this time I'm like, just want to stick to 2. Just have him pop up and down, just skew a little bit. Have the in-betweens really close to the keyframes, just so so it's really just a 2-frame cycle with some skews, and then a little bit of follow through just to polish him up. And yeah, it's like keeping them simple is better. Making them complicated is just makes it look more ugly. Now I'm doing one new drawing here just to really punch him down, so he'll pop up really cute and big. Just like really bring up the spacing between his bottom drawing and his top drawing. I like my animation punchy, I want it to snap without it looking bad. And what does a handlebar mustache, what do mustaches even say, Like, what is someone with a mustache trying to communicate about their person? I know, like, now the idea is, like, hipsters have mustaches because I think the thing with hipsters, or at least what people don't like about hipsters, is that they're doing anything at all. They're going like, look, I have this thing on my face, by like growing a thing on their face. People don't like it when they say anything with their body wearing clothes. Are hipsters even around anymore? Did hipsters die in like 2008? Are we over hipsters? We've moved on to like thoughts. Now everyone's a thought. People just don't like it when you like care. When you take time to like make your look something. I guess the thing with hipsters too is like people don't like that hipsters think they're better than everyone else. I don't know if that's true though, right? Like, do hipsters think that? I think it's that vegetarian thing where like people don't like vegetarians because the non-vegetarian thinks that they're being judged because they eat meat. They're like, oh, this person doesn't eat meat. What does that say about me? They must think that I think that they think that I think. It's that whole loop. Hipsters rule. Just a bunch of weirdos who like coffee. Who like coffee and music. What's so bad about that? Man, I could go for some coffee and music right now. You ever drink a coffee and listen to some music? Man, it's the tops. Do like when people post Instagram screenshots, they like message all of their friends and say, hey, can you like send me a message back so that my Instagram has 5 unread messages so I can post this cool screenshot with all these unread messages to show how cool and popular I am? Like, that's what they do, right? Or am I just like really lame and unpopular and no one ever sends me messages? Sometimes you gotta admit you made a mistake, and so went to fix Salmon Girls. So I wanted her to pop down here before she pops up. Now, one thing with animation that's really important to keep track of is volume. So if you look here, I've already made the scalp too small. So it's not going to look right. It's going to look strange because her head is shrinking for one frame before it blows back up. See, I can tell just by looking at this that her head is still too small when she goes down. The volume is still off. There's these two drawings that I'm trying to get to. The one at the top where her mouth is agape and the one at the bottom where her mouth is closed. And so I am really sticking next to really favoring that top drawing, just like keeping as much of the drawing as I can, but I'm not afraid to redraw as well. So here the second frame is mostly skewed, but then the third frame I'm using parts of the first drawing to in between down. And I'm also having her turn her face, which will give her more dimension. As soon as I decided that she was going to three-dimensionally turn her head, I ruined my life, Nothing's ever tasted as good since that day. Nothing's ever been the same. That's the day everything went bad. I think we should watch the finished scene now. The colors and other finishing touches were all done off screen. What do you think? I love it. I love it so much. I had a good time hanging out with you. If you'd like me to do this again, let me know. Also, subscribe, ring that bell, hug your dad, all the YouTube thingies.
do those thingies. I've been Spencer Suarez, and you know what Kirby says. Boyo.